All right, welcome to the Three Path Profits podcast, where we'll talk about finance, business, social media, and everything in between on our paths to profit. Three different people, three different side hustles, one common goal profit. My name is
My name
Kyle,
is Lexi.
My name is Amanda.
and we're your hosts. If you want more details about each of our side hustles, please check out our episode 5 from last week. Set the proper expectations for today's episode. Our format will be as follows. We will start today's pod, each discussing our updates from our experiences over the last week, what our goals are for the upcoming week, and we'll wrap up today's pod with a quick summary and some expectations moving forward. Let's dive in, and first we'll hear from Lexi.
Alrighty. So, if you listened to last week's episode, we kind of talked about the trademark issue on whether or not I could make an item that has like an NFL logo on it or say like a beer can logo kind of thing like that. So, I listened to some podcasts and did some research about it. So, this is one of the articles that I read. It says selling stickers is a form of creative expression, and there are legal protections for intellectual property. You cannot use someone else's design or artwork your sticker for your stickers without permission. Doing so would make you guilty of copyright infringement under the 17 U.S. Code 910 enforcement of exclusive rights. On the other hand, trademark infringement is for unauthorized stickers and labels with brand logos or slogans. You still need to obtain the owner's permission before incorporating a logo or slogan into your design. This rules this rule applies even if the trademark is not registered in the US Patent and Trademark Office database. And then with that said, there are exceptions for using copyrighted and trademark materials without permission. Parodies, for instance, can be classified fair under the Lanham Act. So you kind of have to ask yourselves, it says these two questions for planning to create a parody of the sticker or label. Did your parody add a new expression or meaning to the original work? Was value added to the original work by creating new information, aesthetics, insights, and understandings? And then this,
Basically, you have just sorry to interrupt, but like, so you have to make it a slight
yes,
variation, is basically what I'm
yeah,
getting, right? Like, it just can't be the exact
yeah.
Yeah. But
replica.
so is there a way that you can get permission though so that you don't have to change it a little
I'm
bit?
sure you could probably reach out to, I'm sure there's like a way that you could reach out to someone like through, say,
Yeah.
like the Steelers or
Yeah,
whatever beer logo. But honestly, I think that would be more work
for sure.
than it would need to be because I mean then I started looking up some conversations between like lawyers and just like an individual that is creating stuff on Etsy, and the guy said like one of the Etsy shop individuals or really just anyone who's trying to sell something said I have a Steelers fan page and was trying to start selling t-shirts. I wanted to make something that says Steelers on them. Would that be a copyright infringement? And then the lawyer said, as noted, this is trademark infringement. And then before you commit anything, if you need clarification, I suggest you consult with a lawyer in private and discuss your objectives in more detail. And then I also found one, and it says you can only make NFL items you are licensed by the NFL if you are licensed by the NFL to do so. And then it says how are handmade product sellers on Etsy doing it? And then the lawyer said illegally. So again, I'm sure there's a way to gain permission, but I really didn't look much into that because honestly, once I kind of did more of the deep dive, listened to the podcast, read some articles, and did some research on it, I realized just changing a little bit would be my best go if I wanted to do something popular like that
Mhm.
rather than trying to gain the permission and going into that
Yeah.
other deep dive on that side of it.
So I guess people just think like that they're too small of a fish to fry, I guess, that
Yeah.
they're just going
Yeah,
to
they don't really
take the
care. They're
risk.
gonna
Yeah.
Yeah.
take the risk.
And honestly, like that's what I was even thinking cuz like I know like there was this one like girl I went to college with and I knew like she was like selling like sweatshirts and everything in between and like I was always wondering like are you just doing that like obviously without permission just cuz you're like who really cares I'm selling a sweatshirt here and there or like are you actually like
Yeah.
work cuz like I feel like unless like you're genuinely like a large company like
Yeah.
no, they're not really like honing in on the Etsy people or whatever. So that was kind of my um research and conclusion on that. So I'll probably either just make things a little different and not really obviously try to like look exactly like any logo per se. I mean, honestly, I'd probably really only make like Steelers because like
Yeah.
that's like obviously like my team. So I would really want to focus on them if I did anything. So I'm sure that
When people love funny shit, if making it funny makes it legal, do it.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like you know the shirts that they sell outside on the street walking into
Yeah.
games, that they're all funny.
Exactly. Yeah. Just
Yeah.
like coming up with like,
That's how they get
yeah,
away with it because they don't have
exactly.
Yeah.
permission.
Exactly. So, and then also kind of listening to more like Etsy podcasts. I don't know like what made me do this. I think it was just because I was trying to listen to more of like the trademark stuff. But then I got into like this whole like all over the place Etsy
Down the
seller.
rabbit
Yeah,
hole.
down the rabbit hole all over. And I listened to um let me give credit where credit is due. Let me find the exact podcast where I found this. Give me 1 second. It is How to Sell Your Stuff on Etsy by Lizzie Smiley. Um, she was essentially talking about that, like, you need to make an EIN number for which is through the IRS, and it's essentially like a social security number for a business.
The business.
So,
Yeah, we had to do one for
and
Skipper's.
again, I was kind of thinking about this too, Kyle. Like, um, since you guys
You can't like open a business bank account without it.
exactly,
It's
Yeah.
how you do all
yeah.
those type of
And if
things.
you like, she said pretty much like if you make anything over $100, like go make the freaking EIN number. And then
Yeah.
also again, kind of the same thing with the LLC, like to protect your business and personal
Yep.
finances, like make the LLC because you want that so that they can obviously come after your personal if they're coming after your business.
Is that
For sure.
$100 overall or $100 on one specific item?
Overall, it
I think $100
yeah,
overall. If you're basically what it means is if you're actually making any type of revenue whatsoever, you should have an EIN
yeah,
so that one, you can have a bank account and you just have a way to track where your income is
yeah.
going.
Yeah, so I was kind of looking at both of those things. Like obviously it's very easy to make the EIN. You just go to irs.gov and then you pretty much follow the steps from there. It's pretty self-explanatory. So I was thinking, I mean, obviously like right now since I'm not necessarily having any revenue, like I can hold off on those things, but I would probably like to do that sooner rather than later just because again, if I did ever get like one thing to blow up, like I don't want to have to not have it and then
Right.
something goes sideways and be like, well, you didn't have it at that point and whatever. Like, I don't want to have to worry about those issues down the line. I'd rather just get ahead of it. So I was kind of glad that, because, like, honestly, I didn't really think about it too much in that way. Like, that I would need one. I guess it was more just like, oh, it's a side hustle, like, not really like a business. But then if you really think about it, like, I have a full shop. Like, it is more than just a small
Mhm.
side hustle. At least it could be.
Do you know what I guess Kyle, you know, what is the process in getting an EIN number?
I did mine through LegalZoom, so they did a lot of our stuff for us. But you can do it right through the IRS website. Like you can just go to
Does,
irs.gov or
does it
whatever it
cost
is.
anything?
Not
Ours did because they did like the articles of incorporation, did like our operating agreement. They did some other stuff that we purchased a package
Yeah.
for. But if you go through the irs.gov, I don't think it costs
Yeah,
anything just to
no.
get your.
You don't need to do anything, pay anything for the EIN number, but obviously you need to pay someone to get the LLC. And you also
Mhm.
she also recommended that you create a operating contract, kind of like Kyle you just said. Um, and there was also a lawyer that kind of I think this was a different podcast now, but there was a lawyer that I listened to that like like was only really practicing like this type of law, like trademark and copyright and kind of that side of it. So she said it's definitely a good idea to make a contract and an operating agreement and everything in between, just to kind of make sure like once you start all of these things, like you have it in place. Um, so
A contract with who?
just for your business in general.
I don't understand.
Just to say what the business is, what it does, who's the owner, what the
Yeah.
name is, when it was
Yeah.
incorporated, like just general
Yeah.
processes.
And then so to kind of go off of my like rabbit hole that I was in as well, I would say like it definitely partially gave me insight to like how, because then I started listening to like certain people, like random people's stories and like how they got to where they were and X, Y, and Z to kind of see like if I could take some tricks off of them or see what they did just to kind of see how I'm differing or whatever. But obviously everyone's story is different. So they're also trying to sell on Etsy like their courses and tips. So it's kind of hard too because they didn't really go fully into like a deep dive on everything because again, like they want you to pay for like how to, like here's the crash
Mhm.
course on how to get big on Etsy, and like if you pay for this, we'll give you tips and tricks and whatever. So um I would say one of them that I really listened to that I liked, and it was like focusing heavy on like what's in high demand at the moment and what's in high demand with low competition. This one guy was making just like wood picture frames, and he ended up just changing the name and making it a little bit bigger to fit like a vinyl record, and he blew up like that because obviously like not many people have like vinyl records anymore, and a lot of people if they do have them want to show them off or whatever, exactly like in the back here. um so again, just like kind of just like even like wording or like little things like that can really make an item kind of blow up, or if you just kind of look at it like that. So
I have an idea for
what's
you,
that?
a bookmark.
I have an idea too. Go ahead, Kyle. You finish.
I think a bookmark would be amazing. You can mass purchase these
Hmm.
for less than $1 a piece at unit
Yeah.
cost, and then making them customizable and something that you could get for a birthday or just like a college graduation or something, a personal memento to someone who's an interested reader.
Yeah.
It's also just a really cool thing to have where you could price it between 10, 20, $30 a
Yeah.
piece. And I think it would have a lot of track. Like I would buy
Yeah.
one,
Yeah.
you
I
know?
like that.
I like that too. My idea, you saying the wooden frames is what made me think of it. I saw this video a while back on TikTok where this guy bought like a 4x4 piece of wood. It was like 10 feet long, some 8 feet long, something like that. And he cut, I don't know if it was every quarter inch, maybe. He had just like continued to cut quarter-inch pieces all the way down until the wood was gone, basically, and then sold them as packs of 4 coasters. He
Mhm.
like sanded them
Yeah.
and maybe put like a finish coat on them.
Yeah.
But you could do that,
Yeah.
sand them, put a finish coat on them,
Yeah.
and then put whatever the heck you want on them.
Yeah.
I feel like that's just more work though. I feel like the bookmark thing is something like
Yeah.
super like personable,
Yeah.
but like so easy for her to
Yeah.
do, you know? Like one bookmark would take you 20 seconds, right?
Yeah. I mean, depending on, I guess
If
it would
it's
depend on what it is because if it's like you want like the vinyl on it, then it would take me a little bit longer. But I can put a pen in or like a marker in my Cricut to make my Cricut draw on the bookmark itself, if that makes sense. So it kind of depends on again what you would want.
I guess yeah, it depends on if you're doing like a cloth boardmark, a plastic
Mhm.
bookmark, a leather
Yes.
bookmark. I guess yeah, it
It
really
would, yeah,
depends on what
it
your
would really
special
depend
is.
on like if I'm just doing like a cardstock, like a hard cardstock or whatever, I could just use like a marker, obviously, depending. But if I want to get like really like in a higher end, I'd probably do like a thicker plastic that wouldn't really bend or break very easily, like you said, like leather or kind of more on that end rather than just a regular like hard cardstock. Um, this is that was kind of all of my like podcasts and like research and kind of things like that.
Just to pause real quick, it's so funny seeing your name, Lexi Benedict, on the screen.
I know this is the first week that I like.
I didn't even notice.
This is the first week
That's
that I put
awesome.
Benedict as my last name instead of Rieger.
I just noticed it. I had to say
Yeah, well,
something.
because I guess like now I'm finally like actually in the process of changing it, and like especially with work too. So I was like, you know what the hell? I'll finally put it
I noticed you did on Instagram like a week or two
there. Yeah.
ago, but I just noticed that one
No,
Well,
she
today.
did on Instagram like the next day.
well, I did it the next day
Yeah.
because Seth freaking posted on his Facebook, married to Lexi Rieger, and I was like, well, shit, I guess I gotta change it to Benedict. um, but yeah, so that's definitely it. Trust me, it's weird for me too. Like even when I like say I am talking about him, I just like say Seth instead of like husband because I'm like, wait, that sounds weird. I'm like, if you don't know who he is, well, it's Seth. But so, I did make the wine glasses for two friends. I'm gonna give them to them and have them post on their personal accounts and just tag my Anything Cricket Co. Instagram. I'm gonna be posting on my personal Instagram as well, and we'll be promoting just as much as possible, and then compare also to see how much traffic is brought to my shop once I have these like quote unquote shout outs or like me posting it as well. Because I know like if I saw someone just randomly post that, I'd be like, "Oh, I want to go look." So like I know I would just even look even if I wasn't trying to buy anything. So I'm interested to see once I do finally post it, who goes and looks, how many visitors I get, like cuz obviously especially my personal Instagram is like the business or creator too, just cuz I like to see like who sends stuff, how many people saw it, like just like I like to look at the insights or whatever. So it'll be cool to see like how many people actually like typed or clicked on the page to go look at my Anything Cricket Co Instagram. Um and then also I did talk about last week as well like using Canva or like an editing app to kind of use those instead of making every single item. Canva didn't really work as well as I'd hoped. I'm going to explore like other editing apps because I'm sure there's so many out there that I could play around with. So I'm just going to really find one that like works best because I also want to be able to kind of show it on the actual like cup that I'm using or whatever rather than just like laying out a bunch of different designs like on a regular like Word document that I screenshotted or saved or whatever. So I'm gonna kind of see what's out there and kind of be able to give options as well. I did post one though that I didn't actually like make anything. I just posted the cup and then I gave a bunch of different like design options and then obviously gave the personalization. So I'm also intrigued to see too like if that changes my traffic at all like with something that isn't necessarily like already made. It's more just like pictures of what I could make
Yeah.
and things like that. So my goals for the upcoming week are also I was listening this I'm kind of back on my rabbit hole, but one of my goals is off of the rabbit hole is trying to get better pictures of the items that I do make because on the podcast it really said like pictures can like make or break your like shop and like your items. Bless you.
Thank you. Sorry, I'm surprised that was the first one so far.
But yeah, so it really said like those can make or break your on whether an individual wants to buy it off of your shop or not. So I definitely really want to like look more into it. Like obviously I don't need to like get out the professional camera like but I still want to like try a little bit harder rather than just like snapping one random photo.
It's it's just about like the background.
Yeah.
Like you don't need a fancy camera. It just making an aesthetic
Yeah.
picture. Yeah.
So kind of really focusing on that. Obviously making another item and then give the two wine glasses I made for the friends to post on their socials. And just really research to gain as much knowledge as I can about Etsy,
Swedish Smash.
Swedish Smash, and really just to the best way to accomplish a successful shop, whether that be just through posting a bunch or just finding that one niche item. So those are kind of my goals. And go make sure to follow on Instagram my Anything Cricket Co. all one word, no caps, no spaces on Instagram.
I love it. I feel like I asked all my questions throughout. I don't know that I have anything else. Kyle, do you?
Yeah, I have one. I have a couple, I guess. Have you tried using like ChatGPT to come up with ideas and using that for
Mm,
research?
Honestly, no, it's funny you say that though, because I was just talking about that with a couple people at work or like regarding ChatGPT, and I actually used that while I was at Resnick a couple times to find good neighborhoods. So I honestly probably should, because I could just search
You
yeah.
certainly should.
like
Ask it any question that you're
yeah,
doing research. You can ask it about Etsy, like say, what is the best strategies to leverage
yeah,
Etsy? What is the best title for a post on Etsy? Like all of those questions that you're talking about
yeah.
researching, ChatGPT is going to be your best
Yeah.
resource.
ChatGPT is insane. I saw a girl
Crazy.
ask ChatGPT to make her a meal plan, and all she did was she put like the number of grams of protein that she wants, number of total calories, like put in a couple things, and it literally listed every single item.
Yeah.
And then the second one that I thought was crazy, this guy who owns some business, I forget what the business was, he literally, I don't know if he entered his business's website or like put in the business description. I forget what he did, but he basically said,
You can upload links and you can upload documents that it can read and go through.
yeah, he basically said, this is my business. These are my competitors. Then put in the competitors and said, what are their weaknesses? Like literally use Chat GPT to like beat out his competitors. I was like, oh
Yeah,
my God.
I'm gonna be honest, like it's really cool, but it's also terrifying at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
Like it is a really cool thing, but I'm honestly like I am a little scared with like how technology is getting with
I
that.
now use it. I now use it more than Google. When I have something that I'm going to Google, like who is the fourth president of the United States or something, like I actually will just pull up the ChatGPT app instead of my Google
Yeah.
Chrome and ask it.
Hmm.
So I feel like it's faster, it's more conversational. Like I can follow it up with a follow up
Yeah.
question. It's just I think it's a better research tool than
Yeah.
Google at this
Yeah.
point. But next, I did have another point, I guess. The trainings that Etsy provides, I think that's a huge resource.
Yeah.
I think if you did you say it costs money or something, or they had some free stuff, but other things
Yeah,
cost
it's some
money?
free things, some not. It kind of depends.
I think leveraging all the free options
Yeah.
first, doing everything that they have, that's obviously going to be your number one resource,
Yeah.
right? And then if they're very valuable and you have a good experience with them, maybe try one of the paid ones and see if that gets you any
Yeah.
traction. Also had here Instagram Live. This is another one for you too, Amanda. Like going on live when you're making things, or even like the two friends, Instagram Live them opening their new wine glass,
Yeah.
or Instagram Live them drinking a glass of wine with their new glass. Um,
I would say
that's going to drive instant traffic, because when those are always the first things that pop up on your Instagram, as you guys know. Like if someone's live, it's the first thing
yeah.
before all the other stories. So it's going to drive more attention to your site, and getting those other people involved will help. Like it'll say like Amanda Reese joined Anything Cricket
Yeah.
Co. stream. Do you want to
Yeah,
join
that's
now?
true.
And shit like that. So I think that's a good
Yeah.
idea for you too, Amanda.
I guess I must not follow people that go live a lot because I've never seen that.
Really? You don't follow Grant Cardone?
I do, but
I
I don't
always
know.
get
I've never seen
He
that.
goes live all the
yeah, I
time.
always get notifications
His reel the other day was so funny.
when people go live.
He's a beast.
I love him.
Well, I had one more thing to kind of question, or just a general thought. It's a general thought and then a question. You made the comment of you're starting to see it more of a business instead of a side hustle. And like the questions I have as a follow up to that comment are, what kind of like perspective changes have you seen with that different mindset? And what are your goals for like 1 year? Where do you see Anything Cricket Company? Where do you see it in 3 years? Where do you see it in 10? If it is starting to develop that idea in your mind of it's going to be a business, have you thought about a business model, marketing plans, like sales strategies, all those other things that go into a more typical business than people would think of necessarily with just a side hustle?
Honestly, I think like right now, yes, I think of it as more of a business than a side hustle just because of the legality of it, not necessarily like obviously like that would be great. I would love like it to be like a full business rather than just a side hustle, but really legality of it and like being in the legal field, it kind of like put it into perspective once I was listening to the podcast of like, oh shit, like you really should like think about like getting an LLC, getting an EIN, like those things like really to protect you, even if you aren't even making that much money, just to make sure it's in place so you don't have to worry about it. Because Etsy can like disband your shop or like suspend your shop for a little bit and they're not required to like it doesn't matter like they'll just suspend your shop and all of your orders can just go to shit like you can't get access to them, you can't give people your orders. So like there's so many things that I'm just like I want to be protected but also create the best thing possible. So I guess if
Sounds like due diligence is kind of the big focus of
yeah,
that. Like you're not necessarily even thinking about like goals yet. You're more just trying to do all your due diligence, making sure
yes.
that you're covering all your bases
Yeah.
to get
Yes.
started.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah, I
fair.
would say that for sure. I mean, granted, if I'm really like being optimistic and like really looking at this as like a full business rather than a side hustle, in a year, I would love to have this be like more than just a side hustle. I could like hire someone to help me or whatever and really like go all out with it and like be able to open up like a warehouse that like I can actually make the stuff, house the stuff, bigger production, things like that. But obviously, that's really optimistic with where I'm
You
at
need to
right
make a
I
vision
mean,
board.
it is stuff. It is stuff that you need to think about, though. Like, how are you going to
now. Yeah,
scale it if your optimism turns into
yeah,
reality? Like, if you start really getting traction and things start moving very quickly, it's going to pay off having thought about that
yeah,
ahead of time and like, okay, what do I need to take in terms of steps
yeah,
to get a facility up, hiring
yeah.
people? Like, what are all those other due diligence that you need to do
Hmm.
in preparation for hiring people and all those
Yeah,
steps?
for sure.
That's all I got for you.
I like
And then that means you're up, dude.
Cool.
I don't know if it's this chair or what, but every single time my legs get so sweaty.
I also just don't have AC up here, so I'm dying.
I'm sweating myself too.
It's also like humid as
I'm like,
fuck.
I feel like it's not like I'm not nervous.
Mm, just sweaty.
And no other part of my body is sweaty. It has to be the chair. It's literally just my legs on the
What
chair.
kind of chair is it?
Mm. Yeah,
Like
is it?
it's like a clear acrylic
Oh,
chair.
that's why.
That's weird.
That
Oh,
definitely
oh.
makes sense to me because all of your sweat is just puddling on it.
Yeah.
And then no, that sounds really gross, but
With that, we'll get into my portfolio update here. Last week, I bought all my stocks for the portfolio with $1,000 invested, $100 into each. The net value of the portfolio is at 1,021.20 cents. So that is a 2.1% return in the first week. That's
heck
awesome.
yeah.
Compared with the S&P 500, the S&P 500 gained 4% last week. My portfolio gained 2. You will see that as you should see that as being a consistency. The S&P 500 is more diversified. It has more stocks within it. It has 500 versus mine has, I think, 10. Um, so it's more diversified, but the stocks in my portfolio are less volatile. So you should see that when the S&P goes up, it should go up more than my portfolio, and when it goes down, it should go down more than my portfolio. My portfolio is based around dividends, and that is its performance, not necessarily price appreciation. So, not necessarily, I mean, I am hoping that the portfolio value goes up, but mainly through the dividend reinvestments. And I haven't gotten any of those yet, which is what I'll transition to now. The dividends, I was supposed to get a Ford dividend, but I didn't purchase it early enough. So there's what's called a ex-dividend date. That's the date that you have to own the shares to qualify to get the dividend. So they say like May 15th, if you own the shares, we're going to pay you out on June 3rd. That was the case with Ford. So I didn't purchase it before May 15th, so I don't get the dividend, even though I owned it on June 1st, 2nd, 3rd. I don't get that dividend. Prudential will be my first dividend that I get. It's $1.30 per share, and I will get that on June 13th, followed by Pfizer for 42 cents a share on June 14th. And then the 28th of June, I'll get Kraft Heinz and Bank of America with 40 cents for Kraft Heinz and 24 cents for Bank of America per share. And then Coca-Cola will start off July with a 48-cent per share dividend as well. Some performers of the last week: Pfizer, the bond index, the TLT, and Blackstone were my best performers. Prudential, Kraft Heinz, and the VYM were the worst performers. And earnings reports, like I've mentioned in the past, those are going to be the micro updates that I'm always looking at for my companies. That's when they post their revenue estimates for the upcoming quarter, their EPS or earnings per share estimates for the next quarter, different trends and forecasts that they see on other key data metrics for whatever the company is, respectively. So those are very important reports. They only come out once a quarter. So when they come out, they're big news and they really can move the stock price and move the underlying fundamental story of the stock and of the company as a whole. So that's why I really look at those from a micro perspective. The earnings reports coming up, there isn't any scheduled for June. So pretty quiet month, just going to monitor their portfolio, track my dividends, and track its performance. First earnings report on deck is Bank of America, and it comes out in the middle of July, July 16th. And then I'll have Blackstone, Pfizer, and Ford at the end of July to sift through. So they're all kind of coming in a bunching. That's usually how it works. They all report generally around the same time. So from the middle of July to middle of August, I'll be sifting through all of those earnings reports and should have a lot of insights to bring about the portfolio when those earnings come out. Why are earnings reports important? I made the analogy of it's like a report card at school. You get it like once a quarter, every 9 weeks. It's basically if you get good grades and mom takes you to the dollar store or whatever to get candy or whatever, that's kind of how earnings reports work. If you beat what the estimates were, then the stock is usually responded favorably, and vice versa. So it's a good check in to see how you're doing for the overall year, how you've been hitting against your goals, and just updated data for whatever type of evaluation you're trying to do about the company.
Not to cut you off at all, but so if there's an earnings report that you look at, like, is there anything that's going to turn you away from one of your, like, say, like, Coca-Cola isn't what you expected? Like, is that going to turn you away from Coca-Cola, or would you stick with it?
Great question. I don't think any one earnings call, unless it was a huge development or anything, would change my opinion about a company. Excuse me. It's more of the collection of earnings calls, like the earnings reports. You're tracking the story. You're updating your opinion, your investment thesis as you get more data. You have more stuff to update your analysis,
Yeah.
right? So if Coca-Cola comes out with the report and it's bad results, I'm probably not gonna jump ship or like dump my portfolio of Coca-Cola. I'm going to maybe wait and see, maybe see one or two or three more earnings reports. If things continue to trend badly, then you start to reevaluate and maybe cut your losses. So it's more of a it's more of a cumulative viewpoint. You're looking at past earnings calls, the earnings call that's current, and then future earnings calls as well to make the overall decision. You're not just one report isn't going to be make or break for a single stock in the portfolio.
Okay.
Good question. So how they do it, they usually have an earnings call in addition to this report. So like before the market opens, they'll put out the report, and that's what everyone who's in the finance industry who's analyzing the stock is going to go through. That's their numbers. And then they have an earnings call that is with investors, usually after the market closes, where the CEO, the CFO, like all these C-suite executives will come on. They go through the earnings call. They have pre-prepared remarks that they could talk about, different initiatives that they have, like what comments they have about the general business landscape, the macro environment, goals, aspirations, and reflections that they've gone through the past earnings quarter. It's a good way to gauge momentum because these are the people running the company. They obviously have information that we as investors and the public don't have. So judging their overall tone, how they answer questions, how they present the data, those are all important ways to gauge their level of confidence about the stock. So it's also cool because investors like me, because I own shares, I can go on the call and put in a question for it to be answered. And it does like an upvoting, downvoting system. So like if yours is a really good question, it'll go to the CEO or CFO for them to answer on the earnings call live. That's a really cool part too. And then a little bit of a macro update here. NVIDIA, have you guys heard of that company?
No.
It's overtaken Apple as the second largest US company, and it's a $3 trillion enterprise. So the
Dang.
company is worth $3 trillion. That's worth more than many countries. Their company makes semiconductor chips for like the AI companies. So that's why they're booming right now. They're all over CNBC. Every other article that comes out on any of the platforms that I watch, it's all about Nvidia. It's carrying the S&P. It's why we're up this year. It's fueling like a Google level revolution in the early 2000s and the 90s. Like it's that big of a company, and it's interesting to see how the sentiment about that company is being translated to the rest of the market. So like if Nvidia is up that day, the rest of the market's up. If Nvidia is down that day, the rest of the market's down. And it's interesting to see how one company can have that much of a sentimental impact on the rest of the market. So I'm just keeping a tab on that. With that, the NASDAQ, the S&P have hit fresh all-time highs. Cooler jobs data that came out on Friday that fueled a little bit of optimism. And then global central banks deciding to start cutting interest rates before our Federal Reserve. So like Canada decided to cut their interest rate. The European Union today just decided to cut theirs. So those are big decisions that are international decisions, but they still affect our economy and the companies that I'm investing in. And then have you guys heard of Roaring Kitty or the GameStop saga of investing, like the meme stocks? Well, that shit's like coming back. It was really only in the pandemic where they were like pumping short squeezers where these stocks were going to crazy high prices like at day over day. And that stuff's happening again, and that affects a lot of stocks in general. It's a good to keep a pulse on. Was curious if you guys have heard of these things. It's just amazing to me because these are things that I think of as everyone knows. This is coming up on everyone's feed. Like all of these things are just common knowledge, but they're obviously not. You wouldn't know these things unless you go on the platforms that I do. Some current events and thoughts. One Instagram post I saw over the last week said that Texas economy was the best in the country in terms of GDP growth. And it is kind of the trending hot spot for people our age to move to. What are your guys' thoughts on that as being Texas as a destination for people our age?
I mean, personally, I love Texas, so I can't really I feel like I'm biased just because I love it in general. But I would say it's just like any other like next big thing. Like Nashville was once the big thing. I mean, California is a big one. I think it could just be in that like rotation of here's the next big city that people want to go to or state wherever.
Um, did it say where they're moving from?
No, it was a GDP number, gross domestic product. So it's an economic indicator that says how much economic activity is going on there. And it's going up more than anywhere else.
I would just want to know where were coming from before I would give you an answer.
I mean, they're coming from all over. They're mostly coming from New York and California,
There,
but they're coming from all over the place.
that's exactly it. That's all I would have said is people want to get the hell out of New York and California, and wherever they end up, they end up.
Hmm. All right. Trump got convicted, found guilty on 34 counts. What are your guys' thoughts?
Mm. Um,
Don't have any. Too political. Don't want to talk about it.
no.
I'll say this. This could be people are either going to agree with me or very much disagree with me. I would say that he was really only charged because he was running for president again. I don't think there wouldn't have been an indictment or really any news about this or anyone going after him if he was not running for president again.
Yeah, I think it's just a witch hunt. They're trying every angle they possibly can to not let him.
So how do you guys think it affects the overall election campaign and the overall country that
Well,
this shit is going?
I saw this video today. Before I go into that, let me ask, have you guys seen Biden campaign at all? Have you seen any Biden like campaign stickers anywhere, flags, anything?
No.
No,
Not a one, right?
No.
no.
So I saw this video today that this guy was like saying he took a road trip from like Texas to California, something like this. It was for work. Like he had to drive from Texas to California and then back to Texas. And he's like, I've made stops in basically every big city because I have a trailer, so I can't go that far. And I have not seen a single sticker on anyone's car that talks about Biden. And I've seen Trump ones literally everywhere. And he's like, it makes me feel more uneasy that they have not campaigned at all. And I haven't seen any of the stickers at all. Nothing.
Yeah.
And he's at the end, he's like, what do they know that we don't know? Food for
What
thought.
does who know that we don't know?
Biden, the government, whatever you want to call it.
What, you insinuating that he's gonna like die or something?
No, she's insinuating that he's just going to win because Trump has no shot because whatever's happening, they don't have to campaign for.
Hmm.
Just something fishy.
Hmm.
I mean, as far as him being found guilty, I think a lot of people who view the government system as very reliable and very like if he was found guilty that means he's guilty type thing, like I think for those people they would be turned away, but I think a lot of people who don't want Biden or support Trump in general, I don't really think that's going to change their mind. Would be my opinion on it.
That's fair. I have one other current event or thought that I have jotted down
Okay, well,
here.
wait, Kyle,
Wage.
what's your opinion? You asked us,
There we
but
go.
No,
There we go.
I don't really have one. I'm not very political. I don't have a dog in the fight. I don't plan to vote in the upcoming election. I'm mainly just interested in how it affects the economy. And I don't think my portfolio decisions are going to drastically change either way who's elected. So I don't have an emotional bias either way. I do think it's weird that the persecution of Trump is taken as far as it is. And it is weird that the Democrats want Joe Biden to run for them. I just feel like they have a lot better candidates. I feel like the Republicans have a lot of better candidates. I just
A
wish
lot of
two better
yeah,
candidates were presented.
a lot of people aren't happy that it's basically going to be them two again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I did hear too that the judge that oversaw his like case, whatever, supports Biden's campaign
Yeah. I mean,
Shocker.
there
and told the jury that they don't have to be unanimous.
Shocker.
yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Before we get off this subject though, I saw a couple clips today of RFK talking. Does he always talk like that?
Yeah.
Like, is there something wrong with him?
Yeah.
What? Why?
I don't know. I don't know. Something with his throat or something. He can't like talk normally. He's had like a lot of ailments. His story's like actually kind of crazy if you hear it. You should watch his Joe Rogan interview.
Okay.
He's definitely a very interesting individual, and
I honestly really liked the stuff he had to
yeah, I
say
mean,
in the couple
he
days.
says a lot of like really smart and just logical shit. But
Well, and in the
I
couple of
just
videos I saw, granted it was his campaign videos, so take it with a grain of salt, I guess. But the way he was talking, he made it seem like numbers wise, he like actually has a chance.
yeah, I mean, obviously he's gonna say that, and I think he thinks he does, but I think he really knows he doesn't.
I mean,
There's
that's also the problem though, because everyone keeps saying they're like, I don't want Biden, I don't want Trump, I want someone else, but then no one else gets votes.
Well, he was saying that he only needs like it was like 33% of the votes in the state to get the what is it called? Electoral votes or whatever. Like the numbers that go towards the 270.
yeah, electoral votes.
Yeah, I mean, personally, like, I don't love talking about politics just because
It's so
it's,
polarizing.
I do love talking about politics, but I love talking about politics with people that I know are at least close enough or can respectfully argue.
yeah, I just try to avoid it altogether because,
Like I know certain people that I can debate with that are opposite views of me, but we have great conversations about politics.
yeah,
And then there's certain people that I know they have opposite views and I know we don't touch those issues.
yeah. Yeah, honestly, I think in all of my friendships and like really relationships, I just keep like politics completely out because it's just I honestly a lot of the times like if I'm really like if I want to have a debate, I'll start debating with myself like in my head. Like I'll really go back and forth on like the views just in my head rather than bringing someone into it.
What'd you find, Kyle?
What did I find?
You were gonna look up something. I heard you typing. No?
Nope,
Okay.
Well, okay. We
wasn't
can
typing.
continue on.
Yeah. I saw an interesting article on Seeking Alpha that said wage growth keeps slowing for job switchers as U.S. labor market cools off. But the data was still kind of crazy. The ADP data showed that the median year over year pay increase for job switchers fell to 7.8% in May from a recent spike of 8.3% in March and 8% in April. So that means that on average, when you switch jobs, you get an average of an 8% pay increase versus keeping the same one. You're only getting like a 3% annual increase or pay raise. What are your thoughts on that? That the data is showing that you can make more money by switching jobs rather than staying more loyal to the same one, as our parents always like
I
made
was,
our mom put
I was just gonna
bullshit.
say I want you to ask mom this question.
Works at the same company for 30 years would tell you that leaving a company is stupid, but the data clearly says otherwise. So, what are your guys' thoughts?
Um, I mean, at the end of the day, the company doesn't give a shit about you. So you don't really owe the company anything. You got to do what's best for you. Period.
I think it's also six one way, half dozen the other, though, because if you really think about it, once you're interviewing for different jobs, a lot of people don't want to see individuals who just hop job to job to job. So I think it kind of depends. Like, do you want to be that loyal individual that's like, I stay, like, and I support my employer or whatever? Like, if they've been good to me, I'll be good to them. Or do you want to be like that individual that just goes all over the place? And like, what are you going to say in an interview when someone's like, well, I see that you've changed jobs 6 times in the last 6 years. Why is that? Like, are you going to be truthful and say money? Like,
Well, I think there has
Yeah,
to be.
I
I think
think
there has
that's
to be
a
a
I think that's
balance
a
of.
super clear expectation that you can set is like, yeah, the last six opportunities that I pursued weren't up to my expectations in terms of either overall
Yeah.
experience or pay or whatever it is. I don't think that's inappropriate to say at all. And I
Mm-mm.
think, especially now, the people in the position who are going to be on the other side of the table get that more than anybody
yeah,
Mhm.
versus 20, 30 years ago. I don't think that was the case. I
yeah,
think
Yep.
that opinion of like, you've had six jobs in the last 10 years, like, we're not even going to consider you. That I think is just past time at this
Yeah,
point.
I agree. And you can always put a positive spin on anything,
well, yeah,
just bullshit
yeah. I
your
wanted
way
to have
through
more
it.
experience or
Say,
whatever. Yeah,
say the company you didn't have any more room to grow there. You're looking for growth somewhere else. Something
Yeah.
as easy as that.
yeah,
Yeah. And the reason I brought it up, it leads into my last thought here of overall, it's just a wage growth is slowing. And that is good because right now we want the economy to cool so that the Federal Reserve can start cutting interest rates. And the market is pricing in that they're going to start cutting interest rates as early as September. They have a meeting next week to decide on interest rates. Everyone's pretty agreed on that they're not going to do anything, not cut or raise. I don't see them cutting at all this year, which is divergent from the market. I think inflation's still too high. The Fed has very clearly said they want to get to their 2% target. Inflation's still well over 3% with most of their gauges that they're looking at. So to me, I don't understand why people are pricing in for them to cut rates when they're saying they're going to be data dependent and the data is not supporting it. So the data is trending in the right direction, but it's nowhere near where they need it to be to cut. So I don't think they will cut. I think that's going to be a huge storyline for us to monitor the rest of the year. I'll have updates as we get the data. And then just to review and summarize, no dividends coming up or earnings for the next week. Jobs report on Friday and a federal open market committee meeting next week. Just some things that I'll be reporting on next week. Otherwise, yeah, I'll have a similar format as of next week: portfolio update, dividend watch, micro check in, macro check in, some current events and thoughts. That's all I got.
Um, my only thing, it's not really a question, but more a comment. I doubt you know this off the top of your head, so maybe just something to either look into right now if you want to quickly, or just put on your list of things to do this next upcoming week. I'm curious, the airline Breeze, if it's a publicly traded company, it's a newer airline. And I haven't fact checked this. This is all information that I heard by word of mouth, but apparently the founder of the company is the founder of, I want to say, JetBlue. It's one of the bigger airlines that basically got pushed out, but he founded that airline as well. Basically got pushed out and then basically said, well, F you, I'll just start a new one. And so he started Breeze. So I'm curious.
David Neeleman
I don't know what the guy's name is.
previously co-founded Morris Air, WestJet, JetBlue,
No.
Azul Linhas, Breeze Airway, new low-cost airliner founded by David Neeleman. Airline was established in 2018, launched its first flight in 2021. designed to connect secondary cities and underserved markets. Yeah, it is. Does not seem to be a publicly traded company. No, ma'am.
Okay.
I think that means you're up.
Okay. All right, my just stats numbers wise from the last week on TikTok, I had 52,000 views over the last 7 days, 100 new followers, and 1,965 likes across all my videos. And on Instagram, the insights are just worded slightly different. They talk about accounts reached. So I've have 6,240 accounts reached on my post the last 7 days, only 3 new followers, and between 900 and 1,600 views on all of my videos that I posted the last week. So I'm happy with those numbers. Nothing bad to say about any of that. For the TikTok shop stuff, I did get the packages for the 2 items that I ordered. I haven't actually used either of them yet in a video. I did post 2 different videos linking products in the TikTok shop, stuff that I already had that I just searched in the product marketplace and found either the exact same thing or something that was very, very similar to something I already had, and linked both of those. The one video I'm going to talk about here in a second. Then the other video I just posted yesterday. So updates on that one I'll include in next week's report. But the first video that I posted linking something from TikTok shop, I was kind of surprised. So over the last 5 videos that I've posted, these are the total number of views I've gotten. 2,194. That was video number 1. 2,152. Video number 2. 343. Video number 3. 4,040. And 13.8 thousand. Out of those 5 numbers, which one do you think was the TikTok shop one?
4,040.
343 based on your I was surprised.
Yeah, 343, the lowest one. I was just surprised. I thought that the videos that you link stuff in the TikTok shop would be videos that TikTok would push.
So those were your last 5 posts in terms of view count.
Yes.
And one of them was linked with TikTok shop, and it was the 343.
Yes. Interesting, right?
Every time you've come up on my For You page now, I've reposted your.
I did see the notification once, and I do think it helped. That one video, I think, was the one that I ended up getting 13,000 on.
Okay.
Yeah, but I saw it
because I've every time you come up on my For You page now, which is pretty much every time because like I like every one of your posts and I watch them full way through, so they know to keep showing me like you.
I do the same thing on my Mern account.
Yeah.
I sit there and I watch the whole thing, even though I've watched it 5,000 times.
Yeah, so I made sure I keep reposting them since we talked about that.
Sweet, thank you. But I did have an idea, Lex. So the 2 products that I got off TikTok shop, the one is like little metal like dressing condiment cups. Mm-hmm. They're only like $1 or $2 on TikTok shop. Whenever I post it, if you could buy it, I just am curious. I want to see what it looks like on my end when someone buys it. Yeah. They're literally only like $1 or $2.
Yeah.
I forget what it is.
Yeah, let me know whenever you post it and then.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I want to know what it looks like when someone actually does go to buy something. Sweet. Thanks. I think that's all for TikTok shop. I did create myself a calendar. I printed it out so I could have it just like easily accessible. And I basically outlined all of my videos through July 9th, just because I got a lot of travel coming up, going home for 2 weeks. So I just kind of like having at least an idea of what I'm going to post every day. If I don't stick exactly to it, if I switch a couple of things around, if I skip over one, or if I have a new idea that comes up that I want to end up posting, fine. But at least I know I have ideas for the amount of days that I need to have. You know what I mean? I created my 4th of July menu, like I did my Memorial Day menu. I created my 4th of July menu. And I also came up with my next just general series that I'm going to do all different kinds of grilled cheeses. So if you guys have ideas, I did a buffalo chicken grilled cheese a while back. So like different kinds of grilled cheeses like that. If you guys have any ideas of what kind of grilled cheeses I should make, let me know.
I'm definitely going to be sending you a bunch because I love grilled cheese.
I love grilled cheese too. I did a DIY project this past week, finally.
Look at you.
It's been way too long. I'm starting to think it's just a cooking page, not cooking and DIY.
Depot's coming back.
Yeah. So I'd like to do at least one more in the next week or so. At least one more before I leave to go home. So at least one more in the next 3 weeks. Ideally, I do more than one, but definitely at least one so that I have 2 DIY projects at least to post here upcoming soon. In terms of Mern stuff, I posted one just kind of lifestyle video content, was like beach stuff, restaurant stuff, bar stuff, just kind of like a vlog kind of style that just had music overplaying it, and got 741 views on it and 1 new follower. That was someone I didn't know, but most of my followers on that account currently are friends because it was originally my personal account that I just like switched into this now. I didn't get the restaurant review in. That'll be definitely on next week's because I did that today. And I do have a list on my phone. I literally have like 4 different notes going that I just like am constantly. I'll be like driving and think of something and just write it down. So I have one for Cookin' Depot, I have one for podcast, I have one for Mern. Then I'm just like constantly writing ideas down. So whenever I'm driving around, I'll see a place that I'm like, oh, that looks like a good restaurant. Write it down in my notes app. So I have plenty of ideas for restaurant reviews. One's definitely coming. One will definitely be on next week's episode. And then hopefully every week after that. I found a mayonnaise and a peanut butter. Oh, that sounds weird. Not together. I'm not using them together.
Okay, good.
But I found a mayonnaise and a peanut butter that I'm really, really excited about.
I really grossed out there for a second.
In ingredient wise, because I've talked about a little bit in past episodes just how I've gotten into more that side of things the more I cook, looking at ingredients and in objects and different food items, stuff like that. So I'm toying with the idea. It's different than my normal style, but I'm toying with the idea of also making a video like that where I show the ingredients in like a Hellmann's mayonnaise, what I used to use compared to the ingredients in the new one that I found. And then same thing with the peanut butter, show the ingredients in Jif peanut butter compared to the one that I found. So different style than what I normally post, but toying with that idea. What do you guys think about that?
I like that. I mean, I think, again, kind of like Kyle said in the past, try new things. Why the hell not? Like, I mean, just give it a go. If you didn't like it, like you didn't like how it turned out, or you didn't like the amount of views or whatever, like give it a go a couple times and just see how it goes.
Yeah.
I love the calendar idea. I love the outlining of future posts. I think it's just going to be great for you to have a consistency like that. But you're just gaining a lot of momentum on a lot of grounds here. And I love the diversity. You're coming up with great ideas. You're also getting traction on a lot of these ideas and executing on them very well. So I think you just keep going, and I can feel the compound interest like building for you. So like just keep taking on these opportunities and trying all of them, like Lexi said. Like you're the way even like you're prepared for today's pod, like the structure of it, the notes on your phone, you can hear the excitement, even the numbers and the data like that you're coming back with is just very impressive. So like this whole thing just looks really good, and just keep trying those new things.
Thanks. Yeah. I honestly am really enjoying it. It does take a lot of time. I spend a lot of time doing between the two accounts, editing videos, coming up with ideas, researching different recipes. I spend a lot of time doing it, but I genuinely really, really enjoy it.
I can tell.
Yeah.
And that is really what matters. Like genuinely,
Yeah.
like as long as like you enjoy it, like yeah, like this podcast is like Three Path Profits, but like it's
Yeah.
all things that we genuinely enjoy.
Yeah. Like we were talking about Lexi's goals with her having a warehouse and stuff. I would love to do this full time.
Yeah.
I would love for it to not be a side hustle. I would love to do this every day.
Yeah.
I have some other notes, and I guess I'll just lead them out now. I think you do need to get an LLC immediately. Start
Yeah.
doing your due diligence, like Lexi. You need to start thinking about those things as this is what you're trying to do is so exponential and can go so viral so quickly that you really need to have your due diligence in place, do your research, have paperwork, like get a website, do all of those things ahead of time. You're going to thank yourself for be prepared on that end
Yeah.
too. And it might be hard to do all that stuff while you're trying to do all your other stuff, but it's so important. You got to make time for it.
Yeah.
And I can help with it too if you want help, like with the LLC or doing a website or anything like that.
Yeah, no, I was definitely thinking about that for me too when we were talking about that with Lex.
Yeah, Kyle, I could definitely use your help with the LLC.
For sure.
Maybe we could just make one episode just like
Due diligence.
going through the process of that.
I like it.
Yeah.
I like it too. Did you have other stuff, Kyle?
No.
Okay.
It was really just the LLC, a website, and just other due diligence that you should probably do, like just researching liabilities, like different issues like influencers have had in the past or people on social media, just being aware of like what's going on with the industry and things like that are important to keep a pulse on too.
Yeah. Definitely. All right. What did I want to talk about next? Oh, the book that I got, the Alexandra Hallman book. I haven't read any more of it. I don't know if that speaks for the quality of the book. I just really wasn't impressed with the first third of it. But I eventually want to finish it. So when I finish it, I will update my final thoughts on that. But I did have a friend suggest a book that he thought the three of us should read. It's titled Skip the Line by James Altucher. Is that how you say that name?
I'd say Altucher.
But he said that he thought it could help with our podcast. So Kyle, big reader. I don't know if you've read that book already, but
As long as I can get it on my Kindle, I'll be good.
Yeah, absolutely. You have a Kindle. Do you
I love
like
my
it?
Kindle.
Really?
Love it.
I couldn't have a Kindle. I need like paper.
Yeah, I need paper too, but I do read on my iPad and on my phone at times. It is
I
convenient.
really like my Kindle. I was looking into this is really
Kindle I feel like is different though because it's not like an electronic screen like a phone is. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it kind of feels like paper. They do a good job with
honestly,
it.
yeah,
Yeah.
it makes me feel like I'm reading a book whenever like I'm on it. Honestly, the only thing
You can have it even like where it has like the crease in the middle
Yeah.
and shit too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And like you can go like this
Yeah.
to like flip the page.
Yeah. I mean, granted, mine's like really like the really small one, but So like I would never do that just because I'd be like squinting to read. But like I've really looked at even like the Kindle Scribe, like they're really expensive, but like you can take like notes on it and like do a bunch of like other shit too that I've really like looked into as well.
I feel like I was like getting out of breath there talking. I don't know if it's because I'm like sick. I can't breathe over here.
Maybe that's why you're so sweaty.
That might be true, actually. I'm surprised I've only sneezed like twice during this episode. All right, my goals. I do want to finish that book. I don't necessarily care if I finish it in the next 7 days before our next episode. It's
Crushing It by Gary V's up next.
what?
Crushing It by Gary V's up
Yeah.
next.
Just want to finish it at some point. That is a goal. I do still want to figure out. I haven't messed around anymore with how to continue recording on a video. I briefly talked about it last week. So, like, I started to make a video where I was just recording myself talking, and then I saved it as a draft, and then I couldn't like go back and record more. It wouldn't let like me have that option. So I want to look more into that because that'll then help me with the different style videos that I want to kind of dabble with. And then my first restaurant review, which may or may not already have been posted. I'm just including it in next week's. And then last, just shouting out myself, my Instagram and TikTok both for Cooking Depot is cooking.depot, cooking without the G, cooking.depot. And then Mern is more lifestyle content, restaurant reviews, Florida living stuff, all the good things is Mern __ on both TikTok and Instagram.
I like it. This really isn't like a question per se, but more like a thing to do. I know like you really like to read a lot, but I also think like listening to podcasts on individuals who have blown up on TikTok or kind of things like that, like how I've been doing with like that. See, I really think like it could genuinely be beneficial just to kind of look into.
Yeah.
Podcasts are elite. Podcasts are definitely
Yeah, like
elite.
I love like I barely listen to music when I'm driving anymore because I'm constantly listening to podcasts, whether it just be like reality stuff, home like improvement over like me personally or whatever it may be. Like I
Yeah.
really think it could genuinely be beneficial just to
I definitely am slightly on that side of TikTok where I do get a good amount of videos come across talk about stuff, but you're right, I should look into the podcast side of it too.
Yeah. But that was
Kyle, anything?
No?
Oh my gosh, I almost forgot. I literally went and got these out of my room because I was like, oh my God, I can't believe I almost forgot to mention these. So I got some cool products to help just with videos in general. I got wireless microphones.
ooh.
Hell yeah.
The brand is Leetus. I don't know, Leettus. And it comes with 2 little microphones like this little guy, and you just plug this into your phone and turn it on. That's literally it. You don't have to like hook anything up. You just plug this into your phone and it automatically works. And then it also comes with these little, like if you don't like the fuzzy microphone head, well, comes with ones that look like this, like little
Oh, that's cute.
little black ones that you can switch. And the video that I made today, voiceover with, it sounds so good.
Yeah, it's probably so much more
Yeah.
crisp.
So good. But I will say, whenever I was in St. Pete last weekend, we used them at the bar. We were just like messing around and we were like going up asking people, fuck, marry, kill, salsa, guac, queso. And
Dude, even like those are cool videos that I think
which
you can
I totally
incorporate.
would have posted it, but the background, like the music was so loud
Yeah.
that it still, you could hear us talking really well, but you could still hear, like it just didn't
There's
sound.
editing that you can
Yeah.
do way out of my depth. I have no idea how to do this or even if what I'm saying is actually possible. But I think like if you give that to someone who's technologically
Yeah.
inclined, that audio file, I think they can clear all that out.
I actually
Honestly,
think there's a feature that's either, I forget if it's on TikTok or Instagram, that I've seen that can do that too.
I was gonna say you could definitely give it to Seth. He can definitely do it since he has like all the different like editing stuff on his computer. Since he has like obviously like he makes music.
And so I took the fluffy one off. I'm sure there's a formal name for it, but I'm just gonna call it the fluffy one. I took the fluffy one off and put these on just because I knew I was gonna be like throwing it in my purse, and I didn't want the fluffy one to get like all smashed. So I don't know if the fluffy one would have been better. I'll have to test that and try that, like taking that one to a bar and seeing if that makes any difference. I don't know. But the other thing that I got comes with a pack of 2.
Whoa.
What is that?
Hold on.
Is that just a bright light?
Yeah. It's a light
Okay.
that comes with this thing. You can like, it has little flaps so you can insert your phone in it and it can stick on the back. The one that I was using is just this little guy that has a clamp on it that screws in here so that then you can just like clamp it on your phone, and it makes the lighting so much better when you go to record videos. Has all different settings on it. I said the brand of the other one. Let me say this one. CLV11SE. Looks like the brand name.
Where'd you get
I don't know. I got them both on Amazon.
Okay.
But I'm just really excited to play with my new toys.
Hell yeah.
I love shit like that.
Mm-hmm. All right, now I think that's all I got.
Alrighty. So that does it for today's episode of the 3Path Profits podcast. We want to thank you guys for listening and encourage you to leave comments or questions to please help us improve moving forward. We'll be posting episodes every Friday, so stay tuned and make sure you hit the subscribe button so you don't miss out on any episodes or important updates. If you did enjoy the podcast, please tell a family member or friend you think would enjoy it. Also, please be sure to check out our social media pages, TikTok and Instagram at 3.path.profits. And we appreciate all your support, and we'll catch you next week.